It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today is going to be, I believe, part 3 of our Ask Us Anything AMA episodes. We get so many questions, so it'll be fun to just kind of like have these mixed in, intermingled among our episodes. And it always gives us good insight too, because if we get a lot of questions on something, we know it probably just needs to be its own episode anyway. So that applies to some of these topics, but we wanted to go through another few questions today. And the first one is, I don't like working out. Any tips? Jess, what are your tips if somebody doesn't like working out?
Okay. First of all, I would probably dig in deeper. There's a lot of things here. I would probably dig in deeper and ask why. Okay. And then they tell me, I don't know. I just don't like, okay, why? Like I have one client who's like, honestly, it's because then I'm sweaty and I have to shower twice a day. I'm like, okay, cool. Can we switch it to the morning so that you only have to shower right after and then you're good to go? Like there could be a really easy solution if your roadblock is something physical like that. Sometimes people don't like working out because they're like, well, I'm honestly just self-conscious in a gym. I've never really worked out in a gym before. I don't know how to use the equipment. I feel awkward. Okay, cool. Maybe I can help that client program some dumbbell moves in the corner of the gym just to get them there for a little bit. And then once they're more comfortable, then we can step out of that comfort zone to do some machines and then some barbells, right? So first I would say identify, why don't you like working out? This kind of goes into our second question, which is how do you stay consistent when you aren't motivated, which we'll come back to this related to food, but you are not always going to feel motivated. So I don't like working out is not a reason to not work out if you want the consequences that come with working out, right? So if the outcome that you desire is a fit physique or health or strength, then you're going to have to work out even if you don't care for it, right? So obviously there are ways you can make it more pleasant. Maybe you listen to music you love. Maybe you carve out me time. Maybe you buy some new sneakers so you feel good in the gym, right? Like maybe it's something like that just to get the instant gratification right away to get a little bit more hype. But at the end of the day, you're working out because you want the outcome associated with working out, not because the thing itself might be the flashiest fun thing of all time, right? Especially if you are working out in a really effective way. Sometimes it can be boring. Sometimes it can be redundant. Try focusing on the wins of like, I got a little stronger than I did last week in this one exercise, or my squat got a little bit lower. Cool. If you're documenting your progression, that's something that might make you like it more because you start to feel proud of yourself. But even us, like both me and Jill love lifting. Like that's what we do. There are days, there are weeks where I'm in a slump and I'm like, I don't really feel like it. And I still go, you know, and maybe it's not the best lift of my life, but I still go and I still do the thing because I want the outcome associated with the thing. And then I start to feel so good physically that if I do get off track honestly, for me, it's more than 1 week at a time. If I get off track for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I start to feel crappy. So then I want that outcome again. So I get back on track. So keep your eye on, okay, what's the outcome I want? I think Jill always uses this analogy of brushing our teeth. I don't always feel like brushing my teeth, but I don't want the consequence of me not brushing my teeth, right? I don't want my teeth to rot and fall out. I don't want my breath to stink. If I choose not to work out, I'm not going to like those consequences on my body. So I'm still going to do the thing.
Yeah. I think that's so true. And you're right. These two questions do go hand in hand in terms of like, I don't like working out. I feel like I have this conversation a lot. And I always do exactly what you just said and first ask like, why? Why don't you like working out? Because it could be you don't like your environment. It could be that you've been trying to work out in your gym and it's cold and there's cobwebs and it's just not fun. It doesn't feel good. It could be that you don't want to go to the gym because you're afraid. It could be that you don't know what the right thing to do is for you. So you feel like you're wasting your time, right? There's so many reasons. And I think it's important to get to the root of that first, because if you figure that out and you can address whatever that hurdle is in your head, in your mind, whatever's blocking you, then we like remove that barrier and make it easier for you to execute. And then in terms of motivation, I agree. There are workouts. I mean, I can think of times where I was in the gym and working out and I was like pissed in the middle of a set. Like, I cannot believe I'm doing this right now. I don't want to be here. I don't like this, but you do it, and you do it because like Jess said, most of the time I do enjoy going to the gym. There are always going to be other things that I need to get done outside of the gym. Yeah, I also have laundry that's been in the dryer touching up for 3 weeks, right? Like I also need to go to the grocery store, and we've been eating frozen chicken nuggets for 2 days. Like I have all of the same problems and things on my to-do list as everyone else, but I make it a priority. And like Jess said, I like the way that it makes me feel. And if I just only go when I'm motivated, I'm going to go for 2 weeks, then I'm not going to go for 2 months, and then I'm going to go for a week. I'm never going to see progress. I'm never going to be consistent with it. And also, I'm never going to really reap the health benefits of it because I'm never just seeing it through. It can't be a mood dependent thing. It has to be something that you commit to and see through. That's my health. I want to be around for my kid, and you can't work out for 2 weeks and all of a sudden have health and longevity and move well in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, right? That's something that has to build up from consistency over time. So that's what I keep in the back of my mind. And Jess does this too. Sometimes I change my environment. Jess went to CrossFit for a little bit. Sometimes I get bored and go to hot yoga, and then I get bored and go to Pilates. Like, do I think, is that the most productive thing to do in terms of physique change? Absolutely not. Am I still usually lifting 2 or 3 days a week when I'm doing those other things to, find my spark? Yes, I still do the foundational stuff. And then I go to Pilates for 2 days a week and try to learn some shit that I'm probably never going to be able to do. Right. But the point is that you have to figure out what is it that's causing that block. And that's going to, you're not going to have to worry about motivation at that point because you're just going to do the thing.
I was going to say that, like, you can also dial it back just temporarily, as long as it doesn't become a normal thing, right? I'm following one of Jill's programs right now, and I don't personally care for it. It's killing my lower body. It's killing me, Jill. It's killing me. And the other day I was having a mood like this where I'm like, I just don't physically have the energy today to do this super heavy, high volume leg day. So I swapped some things out. Instead of doing these 8 sets of barbell deadlifts, I did 4 sets, and then I did some other hinge movement, right? Like, so I'm still hitting all of the important muscle groups and functions, but I'm dialing it back a little bit for that 1 week, right? And that's okay.
I was going to say, there's a caveat there with Jess making a swap in her workout. She knows what the appropriate swap is. She knows
that's true. That's true.
That movement. So please don't just willy-nilly go do whatever you want in your workouts, especially if you have a coach programming for you, because there is a method to the madness. However,
yes, that's a great point. Every single coach, I tell my clients this, like, okay, if when you have beef with a specific exercise, I need you to tell me why. Because sometimes I might give you modifications, I might give you cues, I might explain the why, and then you might get on board and realize that it's important. Okay. Or I might agree with you and say, okay, let's swap that one out. That makes sense why you're not into it, right? But again, if you have a good coach, there should be a why behind every single movement that's in your program, every single rep range, every single rest period. Not just because more or harder is better. But yeah, I might work out twice a week for 2 weeks. And then it's like, okay, it's now I need to get back in my normal groove of 3 to 4 times a week, but it's okay. You know what I mean? But I'm never just stopping. There's never an all or nothingness because I want the outcomes associated with a healthy, fit person because I reap the benefits in my quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Next question. What should my macros be? I mean, if I could pick one question that I get more than any other question in the history of time, this is it. If you have ever DM'd me this,
I just got this today from one of my cousin's husbands.
Yeah,
just this morning. Hey, Jess, I forgot that this is what you do for a living. Send me, what should my macros be? Let's have a call. And I'm like, well, I'll have a call, but this is going to be your body adapts to it. It's not a one size fits all. It's a set thing. Yep. Go ahead. Continue.
I was just going to say, if anybody has ever DM'd me this, I can guarantee that my answer has been either a question in response or the answer, it depends. There's so much that goes into this, and whatever a calculator spits out is irrelevant because it doesn't know you, your habits, your lifestyle, your diet history, how much you currently eat, what your physique goal actually is, what your true activity level is, because I think we tend to overestimate our activity in general. We think we move a lot more than we do. And we also tend to think we eat a lot less than we do. So calculators are good for a general reference range. I like a calculator if you really have no idea figuring out what should my maintenance calories, how much should I actually be eating to just live and thrive and function and maintain weight. Is a calculator perfect for that? No, but at least if you're eating 1,400 calories and a calculator tells you 2,200, you'll know you're way off the mark, right? So like just guidance. Calculator should be guidance. It really comes down to.
And if you've used a calculator, and you've lost weight based on what it's told you, so you think, oh, no, it works because I use this calculator. I'm raising my hand like this was me, okay? I used a calculator. It was my plate, not similar to MyFitnessPal, back in like 2012 when I was competing for Miss Delaware. And I was like, I'm losing so much weight. I'm the leanest I've ever been because that calculator told me you're 5 feet tall. You only need 1,200 calories. Mm-hmm. It was way less than I actually needed. Of course, I lost weight. Okay. So that calculator put me in a deficit, but that was not based on my specific body and my specific adaptation. So what ended up happening is it works and it works and it works and it works. And then my body becomes adapted to it. And anytime I go on vacation, anytime I stop eating perfectly clean, I gain weight because it slowed down my metabolism being at that low of calories for such a long time with the amount of intensity of exercise that I was doing at that time in my life. It was ridiculously low for me. So that's what could happen. If you're like, no, I know it works because I've lost weight. Okay, that's great. Our goal is to find a sustainable number for you where you're losing the right type of weight, body fat, but also where your body isn't horribly slowing down in terms or adapting in terms of your metabolism. And or that's going to happen, right? If you lose weight, at some point your body's going to adapt to those lower calories. What do we do then, right? Because at some point when you plateau, we're actually going to need to increase that number back up to get you back up to maintenance so that you continue to overcome that plateau in the future. And that's the part that I think that's the gap for most people. Anybody knows how to cut calories and exercise more and get into a deficit. How do you then maintain those results when you add calories back in? That's where we help people. I'd like to give everybody a general baseline answer. So if your question is, what should my macros be? Here's how you're going to go about finding what your macros should be. Track everything you put in your face for 2 weeks. Eat like normal. Exercise like normal. Do not change anything. This is you are collecting data to find your baseline. Measure your weight and your inches at the beginning of this 2 weeks, and then track everything. At the end of your 2 weeks, measure your weight and your inches again, or even take weight a few times throughout these 2 weeks. If your weight is staying the same, if you are truly eating how you've always been eating, you've found your current maintenance, okay? So you have found the calories that your body is currently adapted to. Now, we can certainly give you a protein goal based on a calculation and your body weight. You really want to aim for 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of a healthy body weight for you. As long as you're hitting that, now you've found your current maintenance. If you want to build muscle, slowly increase from that amount while also hitting your protein and strength training. If you want to lose body fat, slowly decrease your calories from that amount while hitting that protein goal and lifting weights. Most people are not hitting that protein goal or lifting weights appropriately. So usually you don't even have to change your calorie target to start. Usually you could actually add calories as long as you're hitting your protein and strength training, and you will see your physique change over time in a desirable way.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, like you said, people are like, well, it worked, right? And it's one of those like correlations, not a causation thing, because if it can put you in a calorie deficit, 1,500 worked. It probably works for most adult females, right, that are trying to lose weight if they go to 1,500. It also would have worked if it spit out 1,700, right, likely, and or 1,750 or 1,650. So it's really important to know that there is not this magic perfect formula to find like a macros. There's not this set macro ratio and number that works for you. And I think you have to understand that, because that's what everyone's looking for. I think a lot of times they think coaches are like withholding, like I'm putting in air quotes, like how we find your macros. We are doing it based on the data that we collect when you're a client, right? We're not like, oh, okay, she's paying. Now I'm going to use my special calculator. We don't use a calculator at all, right? We let your body dictate what that is.
And if a coach does, or if a doctor does just spit out a number without looking at how your body is adapting, that is a red flag. Like, we are looking at your inches week over week. If your inches are trending down, great, we're losing body fat. If your inches are staying the same, but you're gaining weight, great, we're gaining muscle mass. So we're looking at every single data point as we go before changing any of these targets.
I don't remember if it was your client or someone else's on our team, but recently a client went to the doctor and they were losing weight, losing inches, seeing progress, health markers improved. And the doctor was like, I think the client was eating like 2,000 calories. And the doctor was like, well, you really need to be eating 1,800. And I was like banging my head on the wall, like, whoa.
Oh, so this is actually an interesting one because I think that most women would panic in this scenario. She's actually gained 4 or 5 pounds. So she's gained weight in our time together, but she's down like 5 inches in her hips and 3 inches in her waist or something. She's losing body fat and gaining muscle mass. And she's gaining more muscle than she is so she's gained weight, but she's losing inches. Her pants are loose on her, all these health marker wins. And the doctor said this strictly because she's gaining weight. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And she spit out this random number without knowing. And again, I think this client is, she educated herself and she's also educating her doctor during this conversation about, oh, well, here's what I've been doing. And this is the process. And look at these inches I've lost. She showed her doctor pictures. So it was a healthy conversation. But yeah, if somebody just spits that out without looking at these other data markers, there's a lot more to look at. Any of you could look up a macros calculator online right now, and it's just based on an equation based on height, weight, presumed activity levels. That also doesn't take into account muscle mass. Like the more muscle you put on your body, the more calories you burn all the time, which is why at 5 feet tall, I have adapted my body to be able to maintain at like 2,600 calories a day and be fine. So when I cut down to 1,700, that's a severe deficit. I lose weight so quick. So I'm able to do that now. Whereas again, me when I was 21 years old, like I was younger, my hormones were healthier, right? Pre-kids, whatever. I was not able to get away with that because I had adapted my body to such low calories. So again, your body adapts to the inputs that you give it. You can change your metabolism over time. We have a whole episode on that. But to find your starting macros, since that was the question, what should my macros be? Go back, get yourself a baseline, get all the data. Don't just look at weight and inches. And really, first thing first, set your protein goal up and nail that for a few weeks, nail that for a month. And take your inches, because I think, again, I have a lot of women who are like, oh, I've been tracking my protein and it's perfect, but my weight hasn't changed. And then I'm like, did you take your inches like we talked about? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, okay, you could be putting on muscle and losing fat, but your only focus is that scale, right? So that would be my input. Take your baseline, and that's how you're going to find what your macros should be.
And don't pay someone for a macro calculation, because if you are and they are calculating with very minimal data, I promise you that they are also using a calculator, and there are hundreds of thousands of them online. Use it for free if you're going to do that.
Absolutely.
I recommend you do it, but just don't pay for it. We had 2 other questions for this episode, but actually one of them was, I'm doing everything right, but I'm not seeing results, or the scale's not going down. We actually did a whole separate episode on this. It was really good. So just go back a few episodes. And then the last one we decided is going to be its own episode. So listen in the next 2 to 3 weeks and you will see this one pop up. That one is going to be the simple, just progress matrix in terms of building muscle, losing fat, body recomp. What does that all mean? And what is the best approach in terms of actually seeing physique change and getting sustainable results, and why all of that does not actually happen all at the same time? So I think it's important to understand. And when you understand, it's a fancy term, nutrition periodization. It's just not endlessly dieting, essentially, right? And going through muscle building phases. And when you understand metabolism, I think that you stop approaching weight loss in the same ways that you probably have for many, many years, because you realize your approach doesn't make actually any sense at all for what your end goal is. It's easy.
This will kind of answer your questions too about, well, how come that person is gaining weight but losing inches? That doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, that's because she's gaining muscle. So we want to break down each of those things and kind of do a way deeper dive on it, because you guys ask those types of questions a lot. And it's honestly fairly simple. When you zoom out and look at the data, it's fairly simple. The problem is our emotions get involved and our conditioning gets involved around the scale. So then people are like, oh, no, the weight went up. My weight went up 2 pounds. I have to stop this thing. And then they cut their progress short by quitting because the scale freaked them out. So we kind of want to go over all of that of like, what signs should you look for to know you're on the right track?
Yep, 100%. So hopefully that was helpful. Again, as always, message us, DM us, email us, whatever you want to do, comment, leave a review on the podcast with any questions or topics that you want us to cover, we're always happy to dive in. We love questions like this. So we hope that was helpful, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.